Okay.
So we will prepare the live.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so are we going? Are we good?
I'm still preparing the live on Facebook.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So I will introduce the session and then
Okay.
okay, just one moment.
Okay. Got it.
Hello everyone. Welcome to another online session. This is actually session number 2 in April webinars, and I am very excited to present this topic about technology integration. And it's technology integration is one of the main topics we focus on in our sessions. So before I give the floor to the guest speaker, I would like to remind the audience that the main objective or mission, more specifically of Everyone Academy, is to encourage online collaboration among individuals, teachers, researchers, and professors, and to actually empower English teachers locally and globally. That's why we are having conversations, sessions, workshops every month to keep the conversation going. So the title of tonight's session is the potential of XR technologies in education and training. As I said, we have so many sessions on technology integration, on artificial intelligence, on using Google Slides in the classroom. But tonight's topic is a little bit different. It's about XR technologies, and I am very glad to give the floor to Dr. Terry to maybe to introduce herself and then talk about the topic. Dr. Terry has been on the show some time ago, and now this is her second session with Everyone Academy. So welcome. The floor is yours.
All right, fabulous, great. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to apologize to people first, only in that I'm actually home ill today, just with a cold. It's not COVID though, thank goodness, but a little bit of a spring cold. So I hope I'm not blowing my nose too much. So my name is Dr. Teresa Cullen. I am a professor at Arkansas Tech University. I also consult with a company called 𝐩𝐶 on instructional design for virtual reality and extended reality. And my contact information's here, and I'll include it here at the end. My background is like I'm currently the department head of our teaching and educational leadership. My background is I have undergraduate in biology, chemistry, and physical science teaching. I have a master's in computer science, and then I have another master's and a doctorate in instructional design. And so I have kind of a weird pedigree, which makes me really able to talk about new technologies. Also, I ran a one-to-one iPad program for 7 years. And in 2015, I was named as an Apple Distinguished Educator. And so I really am committed to using technology. Now, I know that the majority of your attendees are dedicated to also having learning language. And so I will try to use some examples here that would seem really relevant. So we're going to talk about XR technologies in education and how we might use them for education and training. So I first wanted to start with what's XR, because the terms are constantly changing. So XR stands for extended reality, and there are a series of technologies that extend your reality. Now, you may be familiar with augmented reality, if Pokemon Go was popular where you're at, or maybe you've had the chance to use a 𝐩𝐻𝐾UBE. In augmented reality, computer-generated objects are introduced into your field of view. So you still see what's around you, but then you see this object in it. So I have this short video of a 𝐻𝐻𝐾UBE in order to show you what I mean by augmented reality. You see, I can still see my hand, I can pick it up, but I can still see the room in which I'm in. I can change the object. But for augmented reality, I can still see everything around me. I can still see if someone walks up to me, my dog comes up to me, whatever, I can still see that. Virtual reality, on the other hand, and a lot of these augmented realities had like virtual reality settings where you could put your phone into a headset in order to experience it, but it really still was augmented reality because you were seeing your world around it. Virtual reality, on the other hand, a definition would be that it blocks out your view and engages you in a setting where you only see and hear computer-generated content. And virtual reality, prior to COVID, they'd said it was like 5 or 10 years out in education. But COVID changed a lot of things when it came to educational technology, and a lot of people have said that it has kind of sped up that timeline, and so it is here now. The other thing that sped up that timeline is that Facebook, well, now Meta, bought Oculus, which made a virtual reality headset and then sold it for under $500, probably not making any profit on that. But remember, Facebook makes a lot of their profit on your data, and they collect a lot of data. So so that made it a lot more possible that teachers could possibly use virtual reality in their classrooms. And so I've been kind of playing with that and talking about that. So I want to tell you about a couple of experiences that I've had using virtual reality with teachers, some of the activities that we did. And then I've made little videos from the headset to show you what some of these virtual reality experiences look like. So do know that virtual reality has been around in an expensive form since the 90s. I went to Indiana University. We had a cave, which was a room that was a virtual reality room. And then eventually, it moved on to these very expensive machines, often with a chair associated with them, where you put on a headset. The Oculus Quest really revolutionized that, because they brought that price point down, because while $500 is a lot to a teacher, it's nothing compared to $20,000. And so the question is could we use it for student learning, but could we also use it for teacher professional development? And if we first use it in professional learning, won't our teachers be more comfortable with the technology to use it with students? So I've been teaching teachers how to use technology for a long time. And what I have found is the worst thing you could possibly do is give the technology to the teacher and the student at exactly the same time, because the teacher feels uncomfortable. You have to allow teachers the space to learn. You have to allow them a chance to make mistakes and not feel like their classroom management is at risk or that sort of thing. And so let me talk to you about a few of the ways that I used it. I've been really fortunate. After COVID, the state of Arkansas started a grant program to have online teaching academies. They're year-long programs with a summer boot camp that allows 25 to 50 teachers in order to get certified to be online teachers. And they pay for everything for the teacher. And then after they earn the classes, they pass the classes, they take a test, and then they become a endorsed online teacher. And so as part of this, I really focused on there's a book that says where good things come from. And they talk about a thing that's called the adjacent possible. So I feel like when we're teaching teachers about technology, that we shouldn't be talking about like spaceships. We shouldn't be talking about way out into the future. We should be talking about what's really nearby. So like virtual reality is now nearby. I'm not like trying to sell you on something that costs $10 million. I'm trying to say, hey, these devices that cost about as much as a computer are something that you could use in your classroom to engage your students. So what we did as a part of this grant, we've bought every teacher an Oculus headset, and we've held some of our classes in virtual reality. And we've also had the teachers explore the different technologies that might be available. I have all different kinds of teachers, elementary, secondary. I have those teaching languages. I have those working in the library. So that's another thing that makes it interesting, because the teachers are all from different areas, different schools, and we all work together. Okay, so in doing that, we had kind of, the participants had kind of a different reaction. Some said, I love it. Some of you said this was stupid. We had a couple that wrote grants to get them in their school, but they understood the role of the using VR and about inspiring them to think about the future. But they had this online teaching assessment they were very obsessed with. A lot of people started using it for personal pursuits. One of our teachers lost about 50 pounds using Supernatural, which is a workout app on the headset. And I've also found that when somebody uses it for personal reasons, they generally tend to use it better in their classroom. So I always view that when we're teaching a new technology, if somebody, if I give someone an iPad and they're reading the New York Times or the Washington Post on their iPad every morning, they're getting more comfortable with it and will be more likely to use it with students. So on the program evaluation, one student said, I appreciated the VR stuff. This year, it helped me to connect to specific students and bridge a gap that existed. And it also introduced me to cutting edge education practices. So I want to show you a couple of the activities that we did. The first is that I had teachers explore what was in the VR headset. The Oculus headset has a lot of free apps in it that they could go ahead and check out. And so they created a directory of all these different apps that they used. They said what was the name, how much it cost, why it would be good for education, and how they could incorporate it in their teaching. One of the things that is kind of tricky is that when a new technology comes out, it's really not planned for education. It's usually planned for gameplay. So there's a lot of really cool apps. There's one that does some World War II history. There's one that shares, it's called Notes on Blindness, and it's someone who's blind who's created a VR experience so that others could participate in that. And then there's a lot of apps that would allow you to interact with people from around the world. And I'm going to show you a couple of those. So some of the things that they identified were things like a thing called Calm or Trip, which was a relaxation app. And what they were saying was when they had a child who was losing their cool, they could take the headset, give it to the child, and have them sit and practice breathing and do visualizations to calm themselves down. There's a lot of exercise games. One of the popular one is Beat Saber. And so teachers were using that as rewards. There's lots of like famous historical sites like Jerusalem and the Wailing Wall. And then there's an app called Wander, which I'll show you some screens of it. And then lots of book related experiences, the Anne Frank Museum, other children's books, they've made virtual reality experiences. And then any YouTube video that's in 3D, you can view in the headset, and I'll show you some of that as well. One of the things that was really great about this is that because all the teachers were coming from different areas, they could all talk about different ways they might use it and give others ideas. And as we know in education, collaboration is very important. Another activity that we did, we were using an app called Spatial, and it has all these objects that you can put together. And so all of my students were in a classroom together in Spatial, and I asked them to put a group of objects together and work in small groups. Spatial has this great tool that's called Whisper technology, which means if I turn that on, you could have groups working together around the room, the virtual room, and they can hear each other, but I can't hear them. And then if I turn that off, then I can be the teacher teaching to everyone. So what the students did is they created all these objects together, and then they created a story about it. And then what we did is we went around and had our avatars go around in groups. And so like this one did kind of a Lion King kind of story. And this one did one about raising cattle in agriculture. And so then we were able to go around and view each person's story, and we were able to hear their stories. And it was a way for us to interact directly. Now, and the crazy thing about this is these teachers never met. They were all online. And so this also gave us a space where we could collaborate together, and we really got to know each other. Another activity we did, which is a common activity that we do in schools all the time, was a Post-it note activity. At the end of the course, I said, what was the most useful thing we did? What was the least useful thing we did? And students with their avatars wrote Post-it notes and put them up on the board under each, and then we debriefed together what we liked and what we didn't like. Again, you know, there was a little bit of technology learning to do, but we could do similar things if we were doing language learning. We could have a word wall, and this wall stayed up in this space. So whenever we came back to it, it was still there. And then another activity that we did was a group debrief. And we used a campfire setting, and we all sat around together and talked about what we had learned. And because we had avatars, now some people had been more successful and gotten their face on their avatars. A few people didn't. That's the blank faces. But they still, you could hear their voice, you could interact with them, and you could truly experience them in this virtual reality setting. A few anecdotal observations about these activities that we've been doing. It really created a culture of learning. And we also had some safe sharing. So students the teachers could make mistakes. We also said that there were no children involved at the point of which us learning. So if there was something inappropriate, like inappropriate material, it was okay because we're adults and we can say, I don't want to use that site again. It was interesting because the difficulties in joining or using the virtual reality was not based on the age of participants. I had one that needed a little bit of help. She was 65 years old, but some of the younger people had more problems because they thought they already had it figured out. And so this really allowed us to do some good PD practices and build those relationships among participants. I don't know, before I go on to my next examples, are there any questions or anything that I know I speak really quickly. I was just thinking about that.
Yes, just a little quick comment. So this is all done on like virtual reality settings.
Yes.
So you create the avatars, you create everything. You prepare the setting, and how do you link the audio to the virtual reality
So
setting?
there are a myriad of tools that are free to do this. So like we were using an app called Spatial, and that was all built in there. You had to log in once on the computer to set up your account and pick your avatar. And then once you did that, you linked your headset to your computer, and then you could just only use your headset and you never had to use a computer again. Additionally, there is, I'm trying to think, there's a series of different apps that do this. There's one that's called 𝐩𝐿 Learning, which also does this, and the avatar and the audio and everything is just all built into it. Now, like 𝐩𝐿, there's like a monthly subscription charge of $5. I think it's actually 4 euros. But so there is sometimes a cost associated. We use Spatial because it was free. Any other questions? All right,
Yeah,
let me.
so
Oh,
yeah,
go ahead.
just yeah. So you said that all the applications are meant to be used in a gaming context.
I would say that there are growing to be more like 𝐩𝐿 Learning is specifically designed for learning. But the one thing is a problem with some of these apps. I'm going to show you this one next called Wander.
Yeah.
And Wander is like a map-based app where you can go and you can follow someone else. Well, I was in Wander, and one day a person just followed me that I didn't know. And so you sometimes have to be careful when using it with children to make sure that you have them in a protected environment. So that's a little bit of the issue.
Great.
Okay, so a couple concerns is that the Oculus headset, there's concerns about privacy because it's recording your eye movements and things. There's been a lot of concern about privacy issues. It's still not the easiest thing to do to get the videos and pictures that you take off of your headset, but you can transfer them to your phone. It was really hard to help teachers envision how they could teach a class if they only had one device. Like the idea was, is if everybody had a virtual reality headset, we could do this, but I'm only giving you one. So how could you use just one device? And teachers were a little afraid to be innovative. Like they're like, hey, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to teach what I teach. This works. Why do I have to try something different? And that is just a challenge because people are in the business of being teachers. And one of the other things is they just wanted to pass the test. So they're like, why are you giving me this headset? It's not on the test. But the idea was, is I wanted to inspire teachers to look beyond what technology we had now to what technology was just knocking on the door. Okay, so I want to show you Wander. So Wander is a Google Maps based app. It costs $10 and you can search for any place that you want. So should be a video that'll play. And so I think it's playing, yeah. So you can just type in wherever you want. So I typed in Corinth, Mississippi, and it took me right to downtown. And then I have a map, and anywhere there's a blue line, I can click on it and I can go there. I can set a social setting so that someone can follow me. So I'm in my headset, somebody's in another part of the world on their headset, and we can look at things together. I will say making these videos is a little difficult because you're moving your head around and they're a little dizzying sometimes. So I can type in an actual thing I want to go to. I wanted to go to the Northeast Mississippi Community College. I typed it in and here I am sitting in the parking lot now. So if we think about this in world languages, like I'm one of the very first things that I did is when I got into this app is I lived for a couple of months in Italy. And so I typed in Arezzo, Italy. I went to some places that I liked in Florence. I also went and checked out Hagia Sophia, a place that I hadn't been for 10 years. So I was able to go and like see the world. So this could be a really great app for envisioning the world and looking at like cultural sites. Now, in their social settings, you can create a room and have others wander with you, or you can allow people to wander with you just randomly. So that was my mistake the first time, is I let people wander with me randomly, and I had some random people follow me and I'm like, I don't know who they are. But you can also have kind of planned activities. And so I wanted to show you this. So I was in Wander and I looked at these people and they were listed on social and they were from all over the world. And so I wanted to follow them and I asked them, would it be okay for me to record you to show what you're doing? And they were playing this great game. They were playing Guess Where We Are. And so one of the people was the lead. We all followed that person. And then that person picked random places around the world and made us all guess where they were. It was a wonderful activity. So let me show you this.
That's funny. Going down by the main road. This might be South Korea. Oh, I know where this is. This is Macau. This is Macau.
Really?
That's Portuguese. Yeah, it's
So
Portuguese.
yeah, it is
and Chinese.
Portuguese.
Yeah.
Have you been to Macau?
Yeah, I live in Hong Kong, so yes.
Oh wow! So you gotta say yes. So that's funny that it
This
seems
is definitely Macau.
Yeah, you go. Nice.
Yeah, it's just the top end of it.
Yeah, no, that was
It's not.
Well,
the deep
okay.
side.
the Arctic
Okay.
somewhere.
This is going to be hard.
I think this is the
it's
Arctic.
good. There's no clue.
I've gone to the Arctic a lot in this. Or it could be like Terra del Fuego. Hey Ben, I'm guessing this. But I mean, what is there to go off on the fact that there's
But the
Glaciers.
Arctic does have this color land, doesn't it?
it does. But like, see how nothing's growing? It says.
So I stopped recording that. So what this group does is they just meet up all the time. They're from all over the world and they just randomly use the Wander app to go different places and play a guessing game. They use context clues, like the one he identified, macaw, because it had Portuguese in it, and that was a group that had helped to colonize that area. And so very interesting how we could use this as a learning activity to learn about the world. And in this case, what happened is that those people showed a social, and then I followed the person who was leading it, who was, you know, kind of congratulating people. And then I was able to follow, introduce myself. What I love is that if you notice, there's camaraderie here. They know each other. They do this on the regular. This is fun for them. And so you could do the same thing with your students, and you could also create a private room so it wouldn't just be random people. But that chance to interact with people from around the world while you're in a headset is one of the coolest things about it. So I wanted to show you how a 360 video shows on a headset. So again, this is recorded on my headset, and I just found any 360 video. I was visiting some friends in Mississippi, so I wanted to grab a video from where they're from.
So you go to YouTube, and any 360 videos you can view in your headset. So this has some really, this is expanding all the time. You can use audio search, Corinth, Mississippi, and then choose 360 videos. And so here we have Mississippi Hardwood Tour, Blown Out Bridge Boat Ramp, Final Battle. Was looking for something that I recognize. Of course, I'm not from here. Let me just go ahead and do the depot.
Life here is a triumphant return to the big screen.
The bad news is there's still ads.
Unfortunately, you still have ads.
So I'm in my headset and I can look around 360. I'm trying to figure out where the train is coming from. And once I calm down, I can actually directionally hear it. And I hear that it's coming from the right. So as you can see, that's pretty cool. I can look at a 360 video. So I could pick a place. Maybe if I had a tour coming up, I was taking students there, we could look at it ahead of time. Also, I'll show you on the last screen, you can broadcast this to an iPad, to a phone, or to a screen in your classroom. And so one of the things that you can do is broadcast this so that others can see it. So if you only have one headset, you could pick a student to be like the navigator for the day, give them the directions, have them find the video ahead of time, and then they could be in the headset and the rest of the students could be watching it on a television screen. So they also have these virtual meeting rooms, and I've been really having fun experimenting with this. I have a friend who's an architect, and we've been kind of exploring them together, and he has created, in this room, you can hook up your computer so that you can have the headset on and you can still be typing on your computer. And so that's a really cool feature because it allows you to have access to what's on your computer. So we were just having a virtual meeting. He was showing me his newest design. He drew it on the board for me. And then I realized, oh, we should stop and record this so others can see it.
I'm gonna start recording. So go back over to the whiteboard and just tell me what you
Oh,
did.
you want me all the way over there?
Yeah, why not?
How did I get over there? I can't remember.
You chose whiteboard from your menu.
Choose what? Go to what? There we go. Okay, moving to the whiteboard. Continue. Okay.
All right, Ed, tell me what you drew for me.
So this is just the left side of the building. The building goes way, another 100 or 200 feet that way. But it's a big, long building and it's very boring. I've got to do something to make it jazzy.
Any place where a large group of people could meet.
Oh, yeah, you should see the plan. Here, I'll get back to my desk and I'll show you.
Okay, I'm gonna quit
Go back
recording.
and I'll share the plan with. So let me go to here. I mean, this is just the most exciting stuff ever to me. I assume it is to you too.
Oh, no, it totally is. And the fact that I discounted it for so long,
See how long it is.
that is
It's
crazy
skinny.
long.
Yeah, and low. It's and boring. There's
So
a
what's all the
side
inside
plan.
pieces?
Let's see if we can zoom in. Look around. So I'll start at the door where you come into the building. There you go. Okay, so you can see that the bus.
And so in this video, then he goes through all the plans and gives me a tour. Now, the fun thing about this is I met him in person, but every time that we were having these virtual meetings, he was about an hour and a half away in Little Rock and I was in Russellville. And
So
so,
maybe there is a little comment here.
oh, sorry.
In the virtual meetings, how do you access this drawing tool? And I feel that there is also a computer.
Yes, it's an app that's from Meta that's called Horizon Workroom.
Okay.
And it's a free app. But you do have to install an app on your computer so that your computer can be connected to it.
So it's like an actual meeting. You talk, you discuss, you draw.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't it cool?
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter where you are. And so I'm wearing, you know, and what's truly funny is when you hook your computer up, it visualizes the computer in the headset for you. So you have the headset on and it visualizes the computer in the headset. And then, so I can see it, it'll show me my keyboard. I never have to take the headset off because it will let me look down. And since I've installed the program on my computer, it pays attention to what kind of computer it is. What does the keyboard look like? And so then I can be working and typing and doing on my computer while I'm in the virtual meeting, which is really blowing your mind, like just amazing. Okay, so I have one more group here, hold on, to tell you about. And that is, I've been doing some work with a company called 𝐩𝐶. I've been helping them design training for faculty. And they are designing a metaversity, an online university for Oklahoma State University Institute of Technology. And so I've been working with them and I got permission from them to show you just a few little bits of it so that you can see it, because this is where the future is. This university is about teaching people practical skills. They do things like how to do oil rigs, how to fix diesel engines, how to work in a restaurant. And so one of the great things is that there's a lot of dangerous things that they teach. For example, in their electrical curriculum, you can't allow a student to make a mistake because if they make a mistake, they could die. And if you're working on an engine, it may weigh 2,000 pounds because it's a diesel industrial engine. And so you can never leave the students alone in the room with it. And so virtual reality allows students to be able to take those things home and practice with them on their own time so that when they're in the lab, they can learn faster and they can also practice ahead of time. So they've made a virtual campus, and I'll just show you. And in the virtual campus, they have these conversation bubbles. So if you want to have a private conversation, you just hop into a bubble. And I just wanted you to get a feel for the campus. This looks a lot like the actual campus. And then they have a map where you can teleport to different buildings that have different activities. So I can click on any one of these buildings and go there. So I then clicked on the collaboration space, and this gets me into the collaboration center. And in the collaboration center, I enter a lobby and I can create my own collaboration room. And I can invite other people to come with me. And we can work together and we can solve problems. At the time I recorded these videos, I was the only one in here. But just like I was showing you with Ed and I, these rooms are designed so you can collaborate. So let me show you, this is the collaboration room I went into. And they have a series of models. So this is an oil model. And then this behind here is this 2,000-pound diesel engine. And so you can take the engine, you can break it apart, and you can touch each of the parts. And so once I get myself situated where I'm standing in the right location where I can reach things, I can just grab with my controller and move parts around and look at them. There's also tutorials that tell you the names of parts so that you can hook them back up. And while I'm doing this, I'm just sitting at my desk, just moving stuff around, creating art, I guess, by putting all the parts in different orders. And then they also have tutorials for you to learn how to do different things. So in their hospitality tutorial, they have one where you can learn about different glasses and things.
Welcome to the Place Setting Study Guide. Here you will be able to replay the select Go on the practice or quiz to begin identification. Select Start to begin the full assessment.
So this has both practice and assessment built into it. And then there's further assessment where students can design their own place setting.
This is a carafe. This is a white wine glass. This is a red wine glass. This is a champagne flute. This is a water goblet. This is a coffee cup. This is a soda glass. This is a lowball glass. This is a highball glass. This is a pint glass. This section has been completed.
So now I can go back over and take the test.
In this section, you will be asked to identify the glassware. Please identify the soda glass. Correct. Please identify the carafe.
And so it'll tell me if I got it wrong.
Correct. Please identify the white wine. Correct. Please identify the coffee. Correct. Please identify the water goblet. Correct. Please identify the lowball glass. Correct. Please identify the champagne. Correct. Please identify the red wine glass. Correct. Please identify the pint glass. Correct. Please identify the highball. Correct. This section has been completed.
Now, if you
Select
look,
OK to return
and I
to the
didn't do a
study
good job of
guide.
grabbing it, but over to the side, there's a completion table that shows that I got everything right in the glassware. And that can be screenshot, and I can turn that into my instructor, or at some point it's going to be where it's going to be tied in, and that the results of the test, they're going to be able to share with their instructor. So this is really exciting because this is where I see the future going, is that schools are going to have their own XR university where people can take classes and they can practice ahead of time, especially things that are dangerous, so that they can get good at it before they're in a room with maybe the dangerous things. So the other thing I just was going to say is that while you're using Oculus, you have an internet connection, you can connect to the casting page, to the Meta casting page. And then if you have this open on a computer or on a, on an iPad or something, you can then share that so that the whole class can see it. So it's just as easy as connecting to a website. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. And I know I showed you a lot of stuff. I wonder if we have some more questions.
Yes, so this is first of all, this is really awesome. All these applications, I think, especially the group, the brief, and the virtual meetings where you collaborate with other people from different parts of the world, and this is also can be also related or applicable in the classroom.
Yes.
Yes, for teachers to group students to discuss a certain topic. And but do you think this application needs some time to to master them or to learn all the ins and outs?
So now I know, being that you're in Morocco, and I'm sure gambling is not particularly popular in Morocco, but when I first was learning, my friend that owns the company 𝐩𝐿𝐴, he said, wow, Terry, you are very bad at using these controllers. You can see I'm still not that great. And he said, you need to practice. He said, I suggest that you go and play poker with people from around the world. And I thought, well, that's really weird. But when you think about it, you have to pick up the cards, you have to pick up the chips, you have to. And so I was just sitting at night for fun, playing cards with people from all over the world, having conversations with people from all over the world. And while it was not necessarily anything I would ever use in my classroom, the fact that I was getting comfortable with using the controllers in order to have the movements, in order to move around the room, I was comfortable because I was doing it for my own fun. So there are other things that you can do that aren't playing poker. You could do, there's games that are exercise games where you can play with other people. There's also like fighting games, like Star Wars games, where you get lightsabers and, you know, you can click. And so what I highly suggest is if a teacher is really interested in using virtual reality, I highly suggest that they try to find a way for them to get one headset and for them to start to explore and to find the different apps that they think would be applicable to their classroom. There are more and more education apps every day, and a lot of apps, I find that now that they know I'm an educator, they send me things all the time saying, oh, this app is only $5 this week and you can try it, and that sort of thing. And so I do, much like when I was teaching with iPad, I sometimes would buy my own apps. Oh, I can't hear you. Okay.
Yes, that sounds great. So do you think, for example, I am like a huge fan of building online courses. If I wanted to, for example, design a course with a group of teachers from different parts of the world, do you think this is applicable using this app and virtual meetings?
Yeah, well, so that's what I did. So I had a group of 25 teachers, but because I had a grant from the government, I was able to buy each teacher a headset. And so that's the trick, because you all, you know, everyone is going to need their own headset in order to be able to do what they're doing. And so, and when I say headset, you know, I'm saying, you know, the newer ones are white. I think this is my black one, but, you know, I'm saying, you know, this kind of a headset that has a headset and 2 controllers. And that's all that it is. And like I said, these run between $300 and $400. So it's clearly possible. So my suggestion would be is if you can find yourself somebody with a little money, maybe someone could buy one for your classroom, and then find, you know, during the pandemic, it's actually kind of funny. I have a friend who's a professor at down the road. And of course, we were not meeting each other because of the pandemic. And so my husband has a headset, I have a headset, and so does his wife and him. And we would meet and have, you know, double dates where we would meet and talk about what was going on in our lives. There's lots of different spaces. There's lots of different spaces that are free that you can meet people, and you just have to give them either the link or directions on how to meet you.
Awesome.
Do you have any other questions? That I don't know if you have people in the chat. I don't think you do.
So you also said that teachers are a little bit afraid to be innovative. Some teachers would like to keep doing what was good for them in the classroom. So how do you think maybe we can solve this issue?
So I think, and I don't know how it is in Morocco and some of the other countries who are participating here, but in the United States, there's a lot of emphasis on accountability and to make sure that the students are learning what they're supposed to learn. And so, you know, very low level learning, like where you have students memorize lists of words and do traditional sentences and things, you know, the results show, you know, they refer to it sometimes as drill and kill, right? You know, doing worksheets. The results show that students will do well on the exams. So I think what we have to do is we have to create the space where innovation is valued, trying different things and having students, you know, like when I think about language learning, I know that I could probably get really high test scores if I have them memorize lists of words and have them follow a really traditional path. But if I really wanted them to love language, if I went into an app like that Wander and I had a person from the country whose language they were learning, give them a tour and show them around where they live, is that going to make them realize the value of the language? Absolutely. Will it change their test score? Maybe, maybe not. And so I think sometimes teachers, since they're under so much pressure for the tests, they're sometimes afraid to do something that doesn't directly relate to the test because they know that works. So that's on us to change the culture.
Yes, the thing is that a lot of learners use these applications, especially in gaming. So they already have the skills. We just need to transfer them into the classroom.
Mm-hmm. And I would say the other thing too is that whenever you use a technology like this, because it's very true that younger, like children, are more likely to know this technology much better than you are, you have to give up. You have to say, I may not be the one that knows the most about how to use this. I may have to allow my students to help teach me because they are likely to know more than you.
Yeah, sounds good. So let's keep going, maybe.
So do you have any other questions?
Yeah, that's all we have.
Okay. Well, I know that I speak kind of quickly. I really have to work on that, especially with people. I know my international students in my classes, sometimes I've told them that they need to go, Dr. Cullen, you're getting too excited. Talk more slowly. But what I was going to say is, I think we are still at the time. So Oculus or Meta is coming out with a new headset sometime this October. And it's going to be the Oculus 3. And it's expected to be between $300 and $500. And we are still at a good time where you could be an innovator. And so this might be something where if a teacher is looking for something, you know, one of the things that I say to my teachers in my workshops as well is, you know, the best teacher is a teacher who's excited and curious. And so one of the really great things that we can do here is that we can kind of reinvigorate our wonder and our exploration. And so sometimes when we learn a new technology like this, it gives us so much creative ideas that just bleeds all over into our teaching. And so if this was something that sparked your interest, I would highly suggest you either find one. You know, a lot of times you're right, a kid already has one. You know, to tell you the truth, my friends who I met from down the road and we'd have those double dates, they were actually on their kids' headsets. They told their kid who came home from college, they said, bring your headset with us because we're going to meet up with that professor at that other university. And so they were using their children's headset. And so see if you can get one and explore it a little bit and take a little bit of time to think about how it could change how you teach. Because I do think that within the next 5 years, I think we're going to see a lot more educational applications of this.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I guess if we don't have any other questions, I was kind of shooting for an hour. I believe that's what we were shooting for,
Yeah,
correct?
Yeah.
And so if there aren't other questions, I'd be happy to, and if at some point you want me to go into more detail on something,
Yes.
or
Sure.
I'd be happy to do that, but you just want kind of a little taste, and hopefully this will give you a taste to think about the possibilities.
There is a lot to learn actually regarding this topic. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, we can just go on and see if we can have more comments.
Yeah, if there's any more comments.
Wonder is really a wonderful application.
You know, for me, and I was sharing this in that video with Ed, So what kind of happened is, are you familiar with merge cubes? I see that they're popular in Morocco. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Is it like a gaming application?
Right, it's like a little cube that you can use with your phone, the thing that I showed at
Yeah,
the
yeah,
beginning.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened, how I got into virtual reality was, you know, in 2017, those were the Christmas gift at Walmart in the United States. And then nobody bought them. No one knew what they were. And so Walmart sold them for $1. And so all my technology friends were just buying them, buying lots of them. And so I was like, what's this? And we called the company and we said, are you going out of business? And they said, no, we're, Walmart lost the money on this. We didn't. And so I bought like hundreds of them. And I'd give them to my students. I'd give them to teachers when I would go and do workshops. And I would take pictures of the teachers learning with them, looking at the skulls or looking at pieces of art. And I would share them on social media. And at one point I shared out a picture of this app with this little plant, and someone replied to it and they said, hey, that's my app. I wrote that app. And I'm like, no way. And he goes, yeah. And I live in the same state that you live in. And so we made an agreement that I would come visit his company and he would come visit my university and tell me about what they were working on. And so I ended up driving about 2 hours to go visit his university. And it was supposed to be a 1-hour meeting. And we eventually ordered dinner and we sat there for about 6 or 8 hours because he said, oh, you haven't seen good VR. And so he sat me on the floor of the middle of his office and he started picking all these examples. Some were things he created, some were things that he respected that were very well done. And he explained to me that virtual reality, you know, up to that point, most of the virtual reality that I had done was like, oh, look at this, it's a dinosaur walking. Oh, how scary. It was dumb. And like there was no instructional objective. There was nothing for me to learn. It was just like, you know, I often refer to it as like a parlor trick, you know, like, ha, look at me, I'm cool, but like no value to it. And so once he showed that to me, it clicked in my head. I'm like, wow, this could allow me to learn or visit or go places that I hadn't gone before. In one of my meetings with Ed, in that Horizons workroom, you can pick different settings, different places, like different like world views to be in. And he chose Greece. And I've never been to Greece. And we were having a conversation about, I said, but I've lived in Italy. And, you know, there's some similarities. I've been to Istanbul. I could see the similarities and I understood that I was in another country. And we were talking about how virtual reality is never going to replace that travel, you know, that experience that you had going to other countries. But if you've had those experiences, by adding the virtual reality, you can expand that experience. So I've never been to Greece, but when we were there and he could explain it to me, I could relate it to the other experiences I had had in other countries. And so I think that that's the other thing too, is that for many of our students, they have never gone anywhere. And you know, this could be something to get them to start to love international travel, to appreciate what it's like in other countries. You know, there's so much potential there for cultural understanding, especially if we have a contact person who will connect with us. I'll tell you right now, at my university at Arkansas Tech, we've been doing a series where I have been inviting my friends who are teachers around the world to discuss what it's like to teach in different places. And having them as our tour guide has been wonderful because they can tell us how much money teachers make, you know, what are the challenges, and what we have found is kind of a global understanding. You know, teachers are having similar problems around the world. We're worried because of the testing. Italy's worried about the testing. South Africa's worried about the testing. You know, we're all trying to test our students, but what we really want is meaningful learning. And we have different ways of getting there. And what I found through all these discussions was just an increased understanding of how small the world is.
Absolutely, yes.
And that's what you're doing here too.
Yes, this is a kind of great experience to have teachers, because as you said, it's all similar. We have different geographical locations, different cultures, but we have similar conditions when it comes to payment, when it comes to the teaching challenges, and etc.
Yes.
Okay, so do you have like more?
No, I was going to say that was kind of what I prepared. I wanted to make sure that I didn't put in too much. And if at some point you'd like to do another conversation, I'd be more than happy to do it. And let me share my screen one last time, just in case anyone would want to contact me. That's my contact information. I'd be happy to talk to anyone who'd be interested.
Yes. Okay.
Thank you so much for inviting me again.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Terry. It was really a pleasure talking to you and learning from your experiences when it comes to technology integration. I know there is a lot of things to talk about, because this area is keep you know growing each day, and it's also related to artificial intelligence, and this makes this more complicated, and we need more training. Provide more training for teachers about this.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you so much for everyone attending the live session or maybe watching the recording later. So see you in another session. Bye bye, everyone. Bye.